pages and etc. When they get home, there ought to be something you want the family to do as well. So you have to recognize that. I think it's very, very important. We started over 5 years ago our own project called Reading and Writing Now in Head Start, because we felt that low-income kids, not only in Head Start but in public school too, were not getting the kind of attention they needed to help them aspire to read and do well. And that there generally was an acceptance that they couldn't do it. Even in our own Head Starts, we felt as though because of certain training we'd received over the years that reading and writing was not appropriate in Head Start, that you started that in public school in a more structured environment. We needed to raise the bar of our expectation of kids. And we started that over 5 years ago, saying these kids are ready. In fact, slightly before the research came out from Neurons to Neighborhood that talked about these kids need to know letters and numbers, and they can do this as early as 3 and 4. And then in 98, Congress put it into Head Start Act, the Reauthorization Act, that we had to start doing this. It was something we welcomed because we know the kids were getting more challenged, they weren't getting enough challenge. And so some of the things we thought were behavior problems, it probably was just boredom, and they were ready for this. So we started talking about if our kids are going to succeed, they've got to read. And we talked about math and science as well, though. Learn how do you help them to understand what research has shown us really works, and that is rich oral conversation, engagement, getting children to ask questions, taking the time to answer them. All of those are part of what's necessary to help kids learn how to read. But as you visit with children sometimes in different places, when trying to help the parent to see, to talk, I mean, I saw a father holding a child at the air, waiting on the baggage, and this little kid just talking, asking, and he wouldn't respond. So I just came up closer and I just started talking. Yes, it's moving around, and are you supposed to sit on that? And they would look. I said, no, it's moving. Why? I might fall. And the father, he just started smiling, but he didn't engage or talk to that little 3-year-old. And I see that all the time, more so with non-white and not just African American, but just Asians. I mean, I just see it in a lot of populations that thinking the child is supposed to sit quiet and not engage, and it's going to take some time to break that tradition, though. And a lot of parents say they really don't know, like when we do a lot of conferences and trainings with parents, these are the kind of things we teach them and explain why. And a lot of them are amazed. I mean, they have to get comfortable with it. We used to, with young babies, have the parents talk back to them. It was so embarrassing for parents because they didn't do it. They're changing them. They didn't talk. They just changed them. If they're fixing, we're trying to explain how you're supposed to tell them, I'm going to warm up your milk now. I mean, you should see the parents. I mean, it's really comical to see them learning how to do that because it's not a part of their heritage. So it doesn't carry over. And that's more, of course, with lower income parents. The more educated parents tend to know better and do better. It's quite different. It's more seen as good behavior when a child listens and doesn't ask a lot of questions, or you don't typically see a lot of the parents interacting verbally with a lot of the children. If you just observe in various locations, churches, airports, grocery stores, even beauty parlors, nail salons. Because I'm in early childhood education, every place I go, I'm looking at kids and families and how they interact. And I've seen parents bring young children to the place at the beauty salon. Very rarely do I see them have books or talk to them. They're expected to sit for an hour or so. They may give them a snack, but very little conversation and engagement. Same thing in other places. And we're trying to change that to help parents see that, first, that's not right. These kids are ready. They're so bright. They need that interaction. But because they didn't have it, I mean, even my own, I'm the youngest of 12. And our parents did very little. Luckily, with that many sisters and brothers, I couldn't help but have a lot of oral conversation. And I had to learn to talk loud and fast to have my say. But not because my parents saw that as a way. I mean, they thought you shut up, be quiet. That's a good, obedient child. But now, that stimulates a kid to learn new words and let them help ask questions. So it's a cultural change that we have to work through with many of our families to help them understand that. And it's not there yet. but I think we're getting there.
Excellent. That's such a powerful and important point. It
Yeah.
really is.
Okay.
It's,
And they tell us this about other social agencies. They get the looks, the body language that tells them they're not respecting them for who they are, or they've assumed things about them that's untrue. They're uncaring, they're lazy, whatever the old thinking is. And so that doesn't happen in Head Start. And we pride ourselves in being that way.